and I'll say it now because Keelan Marion had a couple drops, which I mentioned in the post-game show. I've been saying the first 6 weeks of the year, hey, he hasn't done anything to say he should be taken off the field. A lot of people got on me. There was a comment this morning, and I was like, hey, I need you to talk about Zero's performance because you said ... It's like people are rooting for the kid to drop the ball or whatever. Yeah, he dropped the ball a couple times. Now, I think we can see with guys like Tony Johnson, Josh Moore, Jojo Trader got 22 snaps.
Yeah, he hit the over. We had the over at 12.5, right?
Yeah, he hit the over with ease, right? So, yeah, I think it's time to continue to get different guys in the mix. Tony Johnson, I will,
let's talk about it
on the back there, because for as much as I was saying that Keelan Marion was getting a lot of unnecessary heat from the fan base, I also said, if you're going to talk about someone who needs more snaps, we talk about Jojo. Tony Johnson was the guy who needs more touches.
Yeah, you were consistent on the Tony Johnson train, so I do want to give you your credit there because you said it consistently. I interviewed Tony Johnson, just came out on Friday right before the game, so check that out on YouTube. Storm Sessions for the University of Miami official YouTube account, website. They got the Tony Johnson interview. Great young man. I mean, characters off the charts. But you've been saying, hey, we're talking about all these other young guys. What about Tony Johnson? I think what you saw here in this game was that you're trying to get more explosive and make bigger plays. Tony Johnson is not just your 8-yard slot receiver, right? Just target monster kind of guy that you already have Tony for that role. He can make, kind of like Tony, not as explosive, obviously, but he can also make plays down the field after the catch. He can do more from a chunk play standpoint that maybe we gave him credit for, particularly in the ACC, where you're not dealing with the best defensive backs in the world. He's a guy that was a sprinter up in Ocala, basketball player, great athlete, but also a walk-on who really earned his stripes. Averaging right now 25 yards a catch. Now, he only averaged 9.4 yards a catch, different offense. But I think in this particular offense, with all the other guys you got to worry about, maybe he does take on that more explosive play role as an older player who can find those holes in the defense. I'm very impressed with his particular run after catch on that first catch. Now, Stanford's terrible against the pass, so let's not get it too confused. I see you laughing. What's going on?
The Marion hate is just it's baffling to me, D, because people keep talking about how much money the kid's making and all that. He was the number one portal receiver in the spring at that time. Like DZ Din says, should have given Marion's money to Horton. First of all, as I said, Isaiah Horton's situation was not a money thing. He wanted to play with Ty Simpson, which I have to say looks like a pretty darn good decision from his point of view right now. I'm not saying that playing with Beck would have been a bad thing for him, but that was a pretty good decision for him, I would say. Being completely unbiased here. And you needed a receiver in the spring portal. What did you want them to do? What are they supposed to do, D? If they whiff on a receiver, then what do you say? Oh, well, they didn't get anyone.
Yeah, I think what you see in terms of the transfer portal receivers in general, not having the quarterback locked up a little earlier did hurt your ability in the first transfer window, which had more receivers available, to your point, Pete, which is that, you can't compare the second window receiver wise to the first window receiver wise. Yeah, I agree. I think they're taking it's two things. I think they are being too harsh on Marion. At the same time, can we allow Marion to play a role that allows all of his strengths to flourish, as opposed to wanting him to do things that maybe he's not as good at because it's not being done by others, right? So Tony Johnson, I think, for comparing him to Marion, probably sharper route runner, right? Maybe just more of a pure receiver in that element. Whereas Marion
makes guys miss with the ball after, can make guys miss yards after catch for sure.
Whereas with Marion, I think he has ability with the ball in his hands that is different than some others on the team. And you got to figure out ways to capitalize on that, especially as you need to make explosive plays. So maybe the shift is Tony Johnson becomes more of that third receiver, and then Marion really becomes, and he's going to still play receiver, obviously, but the focus with him is how can we scheme him up to make explosive plays, because that is clearly the biggest weakness you're just sizing up the Miami Hurricanes right now. The biggest weakness the Miami Hurricanes have is that their inability to make explosive plays. We all can see that. So can he give you some of that in a role that is more specialized, where Tony Johnson becomes more of your third option receiver?
Josh Moore also. I mean, you see what he continues to do when he gets the opportunity. It pops off the screen with him, right? Like you just see, man, this is a big guy moving with the ball in his hands every time he gets it. And the word I kept using with him before the season, which I think is what has kind of shown to be the case at this point, is flash player. His flash will be special, and that's what we're talking about with it popping off the screen. Serious mismatch issue, and obviously he beat the doghouse allegations this week.
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, those guys played. Even Jojo didn't get the ball, but he was on the field. You don't put someone on the field just to model, the uniform. If the ball would have found its way to him, we'd be having a different conversation. But Josh Moore was the one that made plays. I thought the strides on one of those where he got going a little bit, you could see he's not a lumbering big guy. I love that they called the fade to him. It didn't work, but I love the call. I heard that someone said that Frank Reich was unhappy about some of the play calling there to cover the spread and to score that last touchdown. But I personally loved it. I mean, like, why do we care about Frank Reich? Like, who cares? Like, I couldn't believe I saw that. That was on a Miami Hurricane message board. Obviously, an older gentleman, an older Canes fan, I'm assuming, based on the comments and the way he was talking. But who cares about Frank Reich being sad that we scored that last touchdown? I am glad that Mario ran it up, got his young players playing. Those guys work hard in practice. Those guys deserve a chance to play for real and not just kneel the ball or half-heartedly block while we run a play that's meant to just run out the clock. You get your backups in, try to score. Don't bust out trick plays, but execute the offense and give them meaningful reps, which is what they did. Didn't work out, but I love that they threw that fade to Josh Moore with Emory Williams. That'll eventually hit maybe this week. But yeah, Josh Moore, to me, what jumped out to me was the flash of speed when he caught the ball.
Yeah, agreed. He especially at the size too, right? Like he once he gets going, he's a freight train.
Trigger says the play they schemed for Jojo ended up being a false start. Seems Jojo was running in motion to catch a quick screen, but unfortunately it was a flag. It's a long season, right? So the key for Jojo, continue to practice well and continue to get on the field. Because when you get on the field, you have a chance to make plays, right? So the first step is practicing well and doing the things off the field to get you on the field. Then it's getting on the field and making a play. The play didn't come his way in this game, but if he's still getting 22 snaps, 30 snaps a game, the ball will find him, whether it's on a deep ball like it was against Iowa State, where he's able to make a play after the catch and score a touchdown, whether it's just getting him going with screens. I think you could see that when the game flow gets you there, and he can do things in that part of the game. But ultimately, this was a step forward for Jojo because he is on the field. And when he's on the field, he's got a chance. He's got to keep on doing the things off the field. They're going to allow him to be on the field. And then the ball will find him. And look, once he makes that explosive play and kind of breaks the seal, all bets are off. He might start getting more and more targets, and the confidence might change, and the whole dynamic might change. The first step's getting on the field, and at least we got that part of it taken care of here against Stanford.
Also asking about Ray, and look, I'll say this: there's certain guys that if you are not seeing them now, I can only speculate. This is not information. But if guys are not on the injury report and they're not, they're not playing to this point of the season, maybe played 1 game, 2 games, I'll throw Malik Bryan in the same boat. You can pretty much assume that there's a plan for them to redshirt and enter the portal. I'm purely speculating, D. But that if they're not on an injury report and they aren't playing to this point, then I have to believe there's a plan for them.
Yeah. I also don't have information on that, but that doesn't surprise me. So, that would not. I'm not pushing back. I don't know the answer to that. I honestly don't.
M. Milan, appreciate your support as always. He says, why are we still talking about Jojo, guys, when 3 other receivers we haven't seen stepped up to the plate? Hey, I'll say this. We have reason to talk about Jojo this week. He played 22 snaps. So there is obviously still hope at the end, light at the end of the tunnel for him. If he's out there, and again, like you said, now string a couple good weeks together. He obviously had some solid weeks of practice the last couple of weeks to put himself in the position to get 22 snaps. Yes, the game was to a certain point that you were working guys in there, but even before it got out of hand, he was in the mix. Can you string another good week of practice together? Can you keep your head down and work, as M. Milan said, man, I still didn't get the ball last week, but I know my opportunity's coming, right? So that to me is where Jojo, if he continues to stack these good weeks on top of each other, that ball will eventually come his way.
Yeah, or maybe we're Josh Moore. Who knows?
Josh Moore, but I was referencing the comment there from M. Milan as why we're 22 snaps. He played a lot, so
yeah. And why do we talk about him? Because people ask, and but also we talk about him because at the end of the day, the reality of this team is we're not making enough explosive plays, right? So I'm just gonna pull up the current stats right now, and I think this stat will get better as we play more teams that struggle on defense, although Stanford was one. And I don't think we made very many explosive plays. But look, Miami 83rd in 10-plus yard plays. Miami 99th in 20-plus yard plays. Miami 87th in 30-plus yard plays. Miami 86 and 40-plus yard plays. I'll end it with 50, where we are 102nd in 50-plus yard plays. So we got to get more explosive. Now, I will say, you would hear that and you think, man, we must be the worst offense in the country. But we're actually not even close. I mean, you look at our scoring offense. We're scoring 32 points per game, 32.2 points per game against FBS opponents, which puts us right now 32nd in the country. And we play some pretty bad defenses here coming up. So I think that number could get even higher, potentially making us the second. If we play, I think the way we're capable of, there's a chance that this is the second highest scoring offense in like 20 years behind last year. So, you got to see how it develops. But yeah, I think there's been a high success rate offense, meaning like you don't have a lot of terrible negative plays. You're constantly moving it, 4+ yards and having a high completion percentage when you throw. Beck, one of the highest completion percentage guys in the country, but you are not getting those explosive plays. Now, if you marry those explosive plays with how much we're controlling the game, now you're talking about a top offense. Pete, with your scarf on, Playing Time wants to know, is he banned?
No, obviously not. You're commenting. I didn't ban you. I've only banned one person all time, that clown Temmie. He's the only one who's been banned. We love you, Playing Time, even though, I hope you're doing all right this morning.
I miss you.
I gotta pull this comment up. I'm sorry. There's a couple comments here in regards to Jojo. Greatness 305Q says, come on, y'all know he's doing good in practice. He was just suspended. That's why he wasn't in the game. Mario got y'all scared to tell the truth. First of all, definitely not. I say whatever I want here. Second of all, and again, we talked about this on the Wednesday show. Okay, let's assume that there was an incident, and let's, again, not to speculate, right? Let's just say a player was in an incident, right, that caused them to miss a game. That's not the reason he doesn't play for 4 weeks. There's injuries, there's bad practices. I can tell you the consistency was not there. And that's not, like, the coaches have said that themselves, right? So this is not anything to do with covering up some conspiracy theory. He just missed a week. Wasn't at the stadium, right, for 1 week. And he was back, so.
Play Time says super chats are getting denied. We would never deny a super chat. That's a technical issue with YouTube.
I definitely did not.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I got to talk to YouTube about that. If that's anyone else having that problem, let us know. That's weird. This whole, I love this. Everyone knows. I could promise you, this is like Nick Isaac said, everybody knows what the suspension was. No need to hide the information. Here's what I'll say, Nick. People don't know what they think they know.
Yeah.
Ever. And I tell you this because I know. So I promise you, people might have 1/4 of the story and think they have 100% of the story. And that's why I don't give light to it, because people who have, like, again, a quarter of the story think they had the story, and they're wrong. And I can promise you they're wrong. I can't tell you how many times I laugh at so-called insiders that think they got the story, and they got a 20% of it, and 80% of it is complete opposite of what is true. So I would say use your common sense. Look, were there issues besides football that caused him to not play as much as he could? I mean, I'll let you guys figure it out. The idea that he was just completely blackballed, he played in some of these games. He played last week. He played this week. Like, he's in the game. You don't get in the game if you're suspended for the game. He was injured. There was legitimate injury issue, which I would say if you ask me the biggest issues here, number one was the injury during camp, which is why we didn't, if you go, people say I was hyping Jojo all summer or all off season. Certainly in spring, I was hyping him because he was projected to be one of the biggest parts of the team, according to anybody involved in the team and anyone watching practice and the players. In the camp, we didn't hype him at all because he wasn't playing. He was hurt. So who do we hype in the camp? Every single show.
Well, and here's the devil's advocate on the situation too, D. If we were to come out and say, well, this happened, that happened, people would be telling us we're carrying the weight for the staff, coming out there and saying this kid's a not a good kid, trying to put the narrative in one direction, which we have not done whatsoever either. So for us, it's like a lose-lose situation talking about it. But again, like, when I see a comment like that, first of all, it's just not true. Like, in terms of, I will say whatever I want. Obviously, I've always been that way. But in terms of this situation, that has had, more of a minimal effect on things than people I think really understand.
100%. Lord Baconton, appreciate you as always, the noble Lord Baconton. Hear ye. So yeah, I mean, look, bottom line is I want Jojo to succeed for a million reasons. Number one, because I think the guy's extremely talented. I've seen what he can do. I saw what he could do in spring. Number two, we need explosive plays, and he's probably the guy most capable of giving us those explosive plays when he's right. We talk about a lot because we get asked about a lot. It's a lot of controversy there. I would say the fact that he is playing and that he is healthy now are two very good things. And it's a long season. We have 5 more regular season games, hopefully an ACC championship after that, hopefully a playoff after that. So plenty of time for him to get going and show what we saw in spring, but have yet to see really consistently since then for a variety of reasons. Shout out to George Blissett, Grandpa. So more on these young guys, Pete. I want to finish here. Here's what Greatness says. Come on, from Miami. We all know what's going on. You tell me what's going on, my friend. By the way, I appreciate you. I see you in the comments all the time. You get some good stuff in here, Greatness. But I mean, what's going on? I mean, I see. I don't know if it's South Florida receivers getting held down because I see Malachi Tony being the star of the world. I don't know what it would be, really. I don't know what the difference is between Malachi Tony and Jojo Trader, other than Malachi Tony's been healthy, number one, and Malachi Tony's just been significantly more consistent. Other than that, I'm not sure what the difference would be between Jojo Trader and Malachi Tony. Would it be the programs that they're from? I mean, Jojo Trader originally from Central. Ruben Bain's the top defensive player in the country, and played since he was a true freshman. I guess if it's a Chaminade issue, I sure think that Jeremiah Smith would be playing quite a bit if he was here. I don't think that people would be holding his Chaminade high school against. Not that they wouldn't anyways. Dante Simpson playing quite a bit from Chaminade. So again, I don't know what the issue would be locally that's causing these problems. I don't think there is one. I think it's a matter of injury and then inconsistency since the return from injury, right? And was there other stuff? There's a lot of other stuff that goes on that people don't hear about. It just that's part of having a college football program. But he's on the field, and the fact he's on the field is going to allow him potentially to make more plays. And once he makes more plays, I think with a guy like Jojo, the momentum will pick up, and he'll start. The confidence will build in him. His own confidence will build. I think he's a guy that's just got to see some success, kind of like a Jordan Lyles. So we'll talk about more, Pete, because we're talking here in this segment about players from that have not played a lot. With the Jordan Lyle, I think it was huge for him to get that run towards the end of the game to show people, first of all, the explosiveness and talent he has, but then also just for him to see, all right, I can make these plays.
Yeah, I think, it was probably a very tough stretch mentally for him. We've said this before. This is a guy who was the starting running back. He took the first snap of the season against Notre Dame. So obviously coming out of that second scrimmage, the word was he looked fantastic, got banged up in that game. And then, sort of got Wally Pipp there for a minute because Marty Brown and obviously Fletcher had been so consistent. But over the past few weeks, you see the need for that juice that he brings, just that extra burst, really, that we saw on the touchdown run. And like you said, I think confidence-wise should really just remind him, hey, I was the starter for a reason. And I say that not in a way of like there's an issue in the running back room, but remind yourself why you were that guy. And then, after a tough few weeks, he didn't really get it going in his opportunities in the previous weeks here. The doubt starts to creep in. I'm sure there's frustrations. So I think that terminology that you use in terms of, the basketball kind of getting hot there was a good one with him.
Yeah, seeing the ball go through the hoop there, I think it was big. Remember, another guy, injuries. Lyle, you can't separate the injuries. Lofton, you can't separate. These guys are dealing with injuries that set them back, and now Jordan Lyle is 100% healthy. But I mean, again, these are things that set them back that they have to overcome. That's not an excuse. Meaning, like, hey, they got injured for a few weeks, they're done. We've seen C.J. Daniels get serious offseason foot surgery and come back rolling. But I think that's part of the explanation. Jordan Lyle, hard worker, very motivated player. I'm not actually that worried about his mental. I just think I'm just happy for him that he was able to have success. Lord Bacon, it says Steve Kim